Hi students, it's a pleasure to be with you again. Today we're going to have a lesson of review is Repaso, and we are going to have a review about all the topics that we have seen all through this bimester. So I hope you pay attention because this is the last time we are going to see these topics before your exam, your last exam. So let's start with the number one. The number one could be something like this. Número uno podría ser algo como esto. There is a gap here, there is a space here, a gap, a blank, hay espacio en blanco. And the question is her name? So, what are the options that we have in this case? You have to remember that it can be what, or it can be where. You have to study this WH questions: what, where, when, who, and there are two more you have to study. Remember this. So, what is the correct answer for her name? What is her name? So remember, write what. This is the type of questions that might come in your exam. Estas son la clase de preguntas que podrían venir en su examen. So please pay attention. Remember, WH questions in the platform is already the list of topics that you have to study. The first one is, what is her name? Her name is Linda. Linda Carolina. It's an actress. So remember that this one has to match with the rest of the sentence. Esto tiene que ir con el resto de la oración. These have to match. It has to combine with the rest of the sentence. Now, remember also that the second topic during this bimester was relationships, family relationships. For example, my uncle, my aunt, my sister, my brother, my husband, my wife, etc. There are too many words in English that we can use for family relationships. In this case, the question is, your uncle's wife is your, and remember, this apostrophe means possession. So, your uncle's wife in Spanish is la esposa de tu tío. La esposa de tu tío. And remember, this apostrophe means possession. Possession. Significa posesión. Entonces, ¿quién sería la esposa de mi tío? Es tú. Remember, you have to, in this case, it's aunt. The answer, the correct aunt, because it's your uncle's wife is your aunt. But remember, there are so many relationships you can have the option. In the computer, you are going to have at least 3 or 4 options for each question. So try to choose the correct one. There is not only one answer, there are 3 or 4 possible answers, right? So your uncle's wife is your aunt. This is the correct one. Remember the relationships, father, remember niece, there is another one, niece, remember there is a nephew. So there are a lot of different family relationships. Now the third one, this one you have to complete the sentence with was or were. Remember, there are 2 options for completing this sentence with was or were. This is the 2 possible answers you have to use in this case. For example, here, Peter at work yesterday, and this is a question. So, what is the beginning of this sentence? Was. Why was? Because remember that was is used with he, with she, and with it. That is the third person. And singular. So, was Peter at work yesterday? Was Peter at work yesterday? Yes, he, and we repeat was. Was. Yes, he was. If we are talking about, for example, work day at work yesterday, if we change this for a plural, we have to change the form of the verb to be. In this case, it was because we are talking about Peter. But if we are talking about two people, for example, Mary and Susan, we say, were Mary and Susan at work yesterday? So you have to try to pay attention to this detail. So was. In this case, remember also you have to study was, you have to study were, that is the affirmative for the verb to be, the past tense, and you have to study wasn't and weren't. Weren't is the negative and wasn't for this form. Now, the next one is she at the school today. This is another question. Another question. Just don't forget the question mark here at the end of the sentence. Was she at the school today? The same situation of the previous one. Remember, we're talking about she. This time I don't write the name, but the pronoun. The pronoun. Was she at the school today? No. And this time, remember, we have to affirm the negative. No, she wasn't. We have to use the negative in this case because it's already here the word no. If here you find the word no, you have to say no, she wasn't. If here is the word yes, yes she is, or yes she was. It depends on this word. Well, you need your hair for the party. In this case of questions, you have to use make. Remember that we saw the word make or do. There are two possible options in this case. You say you need to make or you need to do your hair for the party. What do you think is better? In this case, make is not correct. It's do, because arreglar el pelo en español, it's do. Do your hair. You need to do your hair. Tienes que arreglar tu cabello para la fiesta. And remember to always finish the sentence with a dot. That's all you have to remember. Well, the next one. Here you have two possible options. Remember, this is a question too. So I forgot to question mark. I did it on purpose so you can watch what I'm doing. Is why. Why is why? ¿Por qué? Recuerden que why es porque en español. Why is the dog barking? Why is the dog barking? Y siempre que utilicemos why, all the time that we use why, every time we use why, and as a question, we have to answer with because. Remember this. This is a rule in English. Every time you use why for making a question, you have to answer with a because. Because, right? Don't forget it. There's something like this in your exam, right? So, your sister, this is another for the family relationships. Your sister is your mother's. Aquí está de otra forma la pregunta, dice tu hermana, ¿qué es? De tu mamá. Tu hermana, ¿qué es de tu mamá? Your sister is your mother's. Entonces tienen que imaginar, you have to imagine. So what is the relationship between them? And the sister of my mother is my daughter. ¿Qué es de su mamá? Daughter. Daughter, remember? This is a T, daughter. And the mother of your father. Who's the mother of your father? ¿Quién es la mamá de tu papá? Who's the mother of your father? What is your grandmother. So remember to write it like this. Pay attention to grandmother. And you don't have need to write anything in your exam because this is already done for you. You just have to choose the correct option. Now, the one before the last. Do you live? This is another question. and says, where do you live? It's the same as here. Where? No, we don't have any like this. So, where do you live? Where do you live? Where? ¿Dónde vives? Where do you live? And how do I know that is where? ¿Cómo sé yo que es where? ¿Dónde? Because the answer says, I live on Cherry Street. Yo vivo en la calle Cherry. Por el contexto, yo sé que esto es where. Where do you live? Igual que aquí, what was your name? What is her name? Yo sé que aquí por el contexto es what. Entonces recuerden que tienen que estudiar los WH questions también. Y la última, Peter. Aquí there are two options. Here we have two options, make or do. Remember, when we do money or we make money, what's correct for you? Remember, we studied this in the first week of this semester. We were studying make or do. In this case, Peter make. Peter make. Él hace mucho dinero o gana mucho dinero. In English we can say make for ganar o devengar un sueldo, make a lot of money. Pero como es tercera persona, ¿qué nos falta? Lo que nos falta es la S. Recuerden que a todos los verbos, all the verbs, on the third person you have to add an S at the end of the verb. So this is more or less the way your exam is going to come. You have to try to study this on your platform. There is a list of topics that you have to study in order to get a good grade. So the only thing I have to say is I hope the best for you in your exam and try to do your best. Remember that this is very important for you, and this is going to be a continue of these classes in the next semester. So try to be attentive. So bye-bye and see you later.